Hi, I'm Tess,
Hi, I'm Sarah, and we are.
the Happy Edit Sisters. Happiness isn't just being happy, it's an embodied feeling that starts with how we approach life, our actions, and our mindset. Everyone has a range of emotions, and that's a good thing.
Join us as we dive into what it means to be happy and how we build a foundation for happiness through different lenses. Hi, Tess.
Hi, Sarah.
So today we've got a guest coming on to the podcast. So it just so happens to be my husband, Connor, and your brother-in-law.
Yes, very excited to have Conor on here today. I'm excited to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, definitely. So just to do a little introduction for Connor. So Connor qualified as a teacher about 12 years ago and has worked for 11 years in a college doing pastoral work and teaching and is currently a personal tutor. Connor has had several different jobs in his career path has changed a few times over the time that I've known him and before he went to university at 22 to do a degree in business studies and social administration. But I'm going to pass you over to Connor so that he can give us a little bit more of an introduction of himself. So Connor, can you tell us a little bit more about you?
Hi, Sarah and Tess. Thanks for having me on. Yes, I've had various different jobs in the past and obviously different journeys that I've gone down, but I do feel that I get some sort of satisfaction from helping other people, and I feel that that's changed me as a person and has made me look at things in a different way.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Connor. So today we're just going to ask a few questions, if that's okay, about happiness and what happiness means to you and what brings happiness into your life, if that's okay.
Yes,
So, Conor, what does happiness mean to you?
happiness would mean maybe an experience or a significant moment in your life where you actually enjoy it and you enjoy everyone else around you enjoying it. Certain things, I say, certain big things that might happen in your life, and actually taking in experiences as well, because sometimes that happiness comes later on rather than at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes it's really important to reflect on those experiences and kind of identify those happy moments in those experiences as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, so often as we've talked about before, right, Sarah? Like we're constantly pushing, we're constantly moving forward. We're not looking back and reflecting on what makes us happy. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Connor, do you think that your perception of happiness has changed over the years?
Yes, I think as you get older, as I've just said, you do reflect on previous experiences. Rather, when I was younger, I probably didn't, and I think that's just due to age. But also, happiness has changed. Obviously, we're having children and things as well, so that makes a big difference in it. As I say, the perception of it would be clearly different from when I was 21 or 22.
How has having kids changed your perception of happiness?
Because I think it just could be like basic things that goes on, just everyday normal things that might happen, where you actually appreciate it. In the past, maybe you didn't.
Can you give an example?
Um, just like maybe the children achieving things that mightn't even be that big, but it just gives you a certain amount of satisfaction to see them happy.
Something that I think brings you quite a lot of happiness is when you see the kids like doing an Irish dancing move, or when you just kind of see them through the window when they're doing the classes and things like that. Sometimes notice like a little tear pops up in your eye every now and again, and you can just see that you're really happy.
Yeah, they're proud of them. And you can see it's been a long journey with them, so I think seeing them develop the way they have is a nice feeling.
What do you feel that you do to support your own happiness?
Um, have a laugh with friends, have a laugh with workmates, and sometimes just take that time out and just talk maybe a load of rubbish for say 5 minutes. And not try and take things too seriously, especially in the job that I work in. It can be quite stressful. So if we do take time out just to have a laugh, I think that's important. To kind of take yourself away from it for a few minutes.
And kind of going along that, what would you say? How do you integrate happiness into your work? Because you're talking about a colleague and stressful work. So how do you integrate happiness into what you do at work?
I think it's acknowledging if a student or is done really well at something, then that does give you some sort of satisfaction, especially when you've worked with a student with other colleagues as well, and you've seen that person develop. So you get a certain amount of satisfaction from that. As I say, if you could make the solution of happiness like that, you'd be a billionaire, because obviously you can't buy it. So it is a good feeling. That's the reason why a lot of people work in education as well. That keeps them there, because the satisfaction they get from helping other people.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. When I was working as an English teacher, it was always amazing to watch the kids, or students in general, progress, right? Seeing where they started at the beginning of the year and see where they ended at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And, celebrating those wins that they have along the way. And obviously, they can get frustrated at times, and that's fair. We all do when we're learning new things. And I understand it being very stressful as well, like at a teacher's point of view of, all the sort of bureaucracy that there is within teaching. But it is just that wonderful feeling when your student A is able to surpass what they were able to do before, and B, when they realize it and just how excited they get. Like, oh, I finally did it. I passed that exam, or I finally understand that topic that I was struggling with for so long.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's definitely a great feeling when you see that, when you experience it, it keeps you there, and that's what keeps a lot of people in that sort of job and that environment.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously I've seen from like a personal perspective, obviously being married to you, of the difficult times in teaching as well, and especially like over the pandemic and things like that, and more and recent times as well, where it might be quite a difficult class that you might have had, but then you still being able to go, yeah, but they did really amazing at this, I'm really proud when they've done this, and just really noticing how that makes you happy. Because I know there's been times where you've maybe been like, I don't really know if this is for me, I don't know if this job's for me, but it keeps pulling you back, so you'll look for something different, and education keeps pulling you back, whether that's teaching or the more pastoral work.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. As I say, I wouldn't think of maybe doing anything else now. I've done lots of other things, so I think that's the right one.
Isn't that a great feeling when you finally feel like you found, sort of your purpose, right? Like that brings, at least for me, that brings so much happiness, like knowing that I'm doing what I should be doing. And maybe that changes in the 10 years, but right now I'm doing what I should be doing, and I found it and I feel really comfortable in it. And I think that that's just also really fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I agree.
Conor, when you might have experienced something difficult in your life, whether that's at that time or something challenging, is there anything that you've noticed has really helped in those moments?
I think focusing on the positives of what's around you, and as I say, maybe looking back at nice experiences, or rather than just completely always focusing on that moment in time. So I think it's like, if someone passes away, the most important thing to think about is the experiences you've had with that person, acknowledging the person passing away, but also thinking of the positive times you've had with them rather than the negative. That's not easy, but I think that does help. So thinking of positive things that maybe has happened recently, and not over consuming yourself with the actual moment in time, does help.
Yeah, so a theme that I think we've talked about quite a lot, Tess, is about shifting that focus of attention to something else. So whether that's something might be happening in your life that that might be quite challenging and difficult, but just being able to notice those snippets of positivity and happiness that's there as well, and just being able to move that focus towards that.
Definitely. And shifting that focus, looking at positive things, also noticing, you know, what you're grateful for. I think gratitude is so important as well in that conversation of, you know, okay, these are hard things, as you mentioned, like if someone passes away, you know, oh, it's terrible that they're no longer in our lives, but let's, instead of focusing on the fact that they're no longer here, let's be grateful for the times that we had together, you know, and these beautiful experiences that we've experienced together, and to focus on those instead of on the negative. I think that is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, especially because obviously Conor's from Ireland, and
if people hadn't noticed in the accent yet.
And I think in Ireland, I think there's a really healthy relationship with death, actually, and that grieving process. You know, I think that's something that I've always noticed, is that, yeah, you're always able to pick up that positive, that thing that you're grateful for.
Yeah, it's the concept of the wake process. For some people, it may find strange, but
can you give us an example of what that process is?
Usually buried within 3 days, and then they have a wake in the house for 2 days, or maybe over a certain period, set times during the day, or possibly all night. Just depends on the family. But I think it's an opportunity for us. You're in the environment that you will talk about that person when you were there. Yeah, you may talk about other things, but you'll always have a conversation at some point in that day or that hour that you're in that house to talk about that person, which I think helps. It's like a counselling process, counselling from hundreds of years ago, really, because it makes people think about that person at the time and makes them help them grieve as well. And obviously talk about the positive times about their life. That always comes up, and what sort of person they were like. So I think that does help a lot with the process of losing someone.
Your mum always says she has the best of crack, doesn't she, at wakes?
Yes, wakes are a good laugh, yeah. Definitely they are, and I think it's not a nice, it's not a nice, sometimes it's not a nice experience, but a lot of the time, if they're older in life and they've had a good life, then it is a great, it is an experience in terms of celebrating their life, instead of it being 2 weeks of a gap and nothing happening. It kind of gets processed within a few days. So I think it does help in terms of the grieving process, without a doubt.
And if we have any listeners that have no idea what it means, what the crack means, can you explain that?
Just fun in Irish. So just basically having a bit of a laugh, a joking conversation.
Yeah. Manchester might refer to it as a bit of banter.
Yeah.
Tess, do you have a word from the States that might refer to something similar?
Yeah, having fun, having a laugh, banter, we might use that as well. But honestly, these days, I don't know, my English is I don't remember where my English comes from these days. It's just such a mix of different things.
Spanish word?
Pasarlo bien.
So any Spanish listeners out there?
Yeah, maybe you guys can think of something else. I don't know, off the top of my head, pasarlo bien. Yeah.
If anybody does think of another word, then you can always drop us a message.
Yes.
On our social media.
Yes. Please let us know what your word is that you use for having fun, having a bit of a laugh.
Having the crack.
Yes.
I think that's such a good example, Conor, though, of a really difficult time. Obviously something that I, as a therapist, something that I speak with people quite often is grief and loss and bereavement, and whether that's the death of somebody or whether that's the loss of something else in their life. So I think that's a really good example about trying to bring in those positivities or that positivity and bringing back in happiness into their life. So thank you. That's an amazing example.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important. And like you said, it doesn't have to just be the loss of a person. It can be maybe, the loss of a job maybe that you liked, or not doing something that you think you should have been able to do the first time, and so many different aspects of loss.
Yeah, definitely. Like the loss of a relationship, you know, that's
Also,
a grieving process. Whether
huge.
that's a friendship or a romantic relationship.
Or a pet.
Or a pet, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So, Conor, is there any advice that you'd give to your younger self, and what would it be?
I think I say it with students is believe in what you can do. You can achieve anything if you put your mind to it. I think sometimes it is hard. Sometimes you want to give up, but I think the most important thing is that if you've got something that you want to achieve, it's important to try and keep plugging away at it. Maybe something I didn't do when I was quite younger, because I kind of drifted from job to job. But I think after speaking to certain people over a period of time that I realised that I could actually achieve something. But ultimately it was up to me to do it, and I could only do it, and people can encourage me, but you can only take the horse to the trough. You can't make it drink water. So I think that's something that I've stood by over the last 20 or 30 years. So yeah, I think it's definitely just believing in yourself a bit more and not listen to the begrudgers all the time. Listen to yourself.
I love that, and I think it's so important to listen to yourself, to have that positive conversation with yourself, to constantly go back and say, yes, I can do it. Yes, I am worthy of it. You know, and repeating those things as affirmations, right? At the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, when you're, you know, just kind of in that fuzzy time of half sleep, so that your brain starts really taking it in and acknowledging it as truth. Because so often, as you're saying, you know, whether it's from society, whether it's from, you know, friends, family, whether it's just from our own limiting beliefs for whatever reason, we're very good at knocking ourselves down. We're not good at being our best friend. And so being that best friend, saying, yes, you can. Yes, you can do it. It might be hard. It might be difficult. You might need to ask for support along the way. But that's okay. You can still do it. You can do it. I love that.
Yeah.
Definitely. We're very good, aren't we, at being our best critic, but maybe we should become our best supporter.
Yes.
Instead of our best critic, you know, that internal critical voice that kind of chips away at us, when actually can we flip that on the other side and become our best supporter instead?
Yes, I agree.
I have this image of like
You do roly-poly.
oh, now I have a better image of a of a little woodlouse with I don't know why I wrote woodlouse, because he roly-poly. You know, when we were kids, we called them roly-polies, and now I have this little image of like a cheerleading roly-poly, you know, with like little pom poms, and going, you can do it, you can do it.
Fraggle Rock.
I have a really vivid imagination for anyone that's listening.
When we went on that walk the other day, though, there was a little there was a beetle that had managed to get itself on its back, and so our youngest child, Aoife, she was like, Mummy, the beetle's on its back, we need to rescue it, we need to save it. So we had to flip it over, and then that just made me that sometimes we might need a little bit of help as well, to get back onto our bellies.
Yes, I totally agree.
I think sometimes you do need a little bit of help, but as I say, I do that with a lot of time with young people, but I think ultimately you have to want to do it as well. There's only so much one person can do to help a person. Hence why I said the horse and trough, because I do stand by it. And I think, yeah, we can help, but some people have to do the majority of it themselves. But that's a belief in themselves. Sometimes that takes time to build that confidence up so they can can believe in themselves.
Definitely.
I totally agree with that. Like when I'm working with my clients, you know, like that's one of the things that I require from them at the beginning, you know, and we have a conversation about it is, hey, like there's only so much. I can give you all these tools. I can help you know, you start to think, you know, reframe the way you're thinking. But if you don't put the effort into it every single day, there's only so much I can do. I can give you the tools, but if you don't use them, then they're not going to be that beneficial.
Yeah.
And maybe someday down the road, you know, when you're ready for it, then they will. But if you're not ready for it, and if you're not willing to take those steps and to make that effort, then it is very difficult. There's only so much that another person can do for you.
Yes, 100%, and I think that's definitely it. And as I say, there is only so much you can do. But I think when you get that feeling of success and achievement, you can't buy it. So if you could sell it, you'd be very rich. But unfortunately, you can't buy it. And I say that to a lot of young people that says that, you can't go and buy it in the shop like a can of Prime. Sorry, I'm not sponsoring. But, which costs a lot of money. But so I think that's it. Really, it's up to the person. Do you know what I mean? And just to say, there's only so much you can do.
Definitely. Conor, something that we like to offer the listeners is a happy edit tool. So something that you might like to kind of offer to somebody, a little bit of a resource, really. Something that you might invite someone to maybe do today, tomorrow, every day, that might be able to help them increase their happiness.
Well, the students, we set targets once a term. So we set things that they want to achieve, and other things are quite small to start with. Then we build it up. So then in the meeting, in the next term, we always review them targets to see if they've achieved them. And you'll find that the students always are very keen to see if they've actually achieved them or not. So that's one good way of doing it. Also, if they write down positive things that happen during the week, they can reflect on that at the end of the week. So it reinforces that positivity going forward.
I love the targets. I think that's so important. As you're saying, these small goals. I think we've talked about it before. These smart goals. Like little steps that you can take that say, okay, let's see, this is what I want to reach at this end of this period. And have it not be that far away. Yeah. Right? Have it be achievable. And then when you get to that point, say, okay, have I achieved that? And often you have, or maybe you've shifted in a different way, or you maybe go, okay, I didn't quite get it exactly how I want it, so how can I look back to see how I can improve and how I can support myself better? We actually, going back to the hike that we did just the other day with the girls, right? We were doing this with one of your daughters, Cora, because she was very, she was getting tired, she was very nervous about going up the mountain, and so I was like, okay, so let's just get to that next tree, let's make it to that next tree, and then we'll check in. Do we need to take a break? Can we keep going? And the first couple times she did it, she was like, oh, but then she really got into it, and she's like, okay, let's see how many steps it takes me to get to that next one. So she got excited about it, and I think that is very much of what you're talking about, isn't it? It's like creating these benchmark goals that you can get to and say, okay, look at how far I've come.
Yeah, I think there's an expectation in society that you're going to just do it and you're going to be successful straight away. It doesn't work like that. I think Rome wasn't built in a day. I'm punning all the way, but the puns are the best ways of describing it. Because,
you can't beat metaphors and puns, can you?
Rome wasn't built in a day, and I think society's to blame a lot with they can just be successful overnight. That's not reality, and I think a lot of young people think that they can. But there is very lucky people who can, but the majority of people do have to work at things to get to where they want to be.
That's such a good point, Conor, that, I think society does have, that there is a lot of expectation and pressure from society that we have to be successful, and we have to be successful now, and we're quite impatient, I think, sometimes. And I know that I have in the past been quite impatient of going, but I want it now and I want to be able to do it now, and why can't I do it yet? And that might be more like with academia, I suppose. I wanted to be able to know the stuff right there and then. But I think going back to the hike, that just seeing Cora and Aoife getting to the top of that mountain, and I kept saying to them, when you get up there, you're going to cheer and you're going to be dead excited. And they're like, no, we're not. And then we did get a video of Michael ran up in front of him, and I was like, someone needs to get a video. And the faces of them, because they had to scramble up the top bit, of them just climbing up onto that top was just magical, really. I think we've mentioned sparkling moments before, and that was definitely a sparkling moment, I think, for both of them. And then obviously if we climbed up, we had to climb back down.
Yes, we did.
And I think Cora and Annie were probably frightened of climbing down, but actually they found that so much easier, didn't they, than I think they anticipated. And then they were Irish dancing all the way back down to the car. So
Yeah, no, they did amazingly. But I think continuing this, like the second point that you gave of, you know, writing down your achievements throughout the week, writing down the positive things, you know, this goes along with that, right?
Definitely.
Because then you're being boosted, like, oh, I did this well, oh, I did that well, you know, like the girls, like, oh, we made it to the top, oh, we made it to the bottom, you know, and there was no major issue with either of that, you know, and just reflecting on those, like, I was able to do it every step of the way.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And even pushing yourself to that point of going, I'm not going to get up there. And I think, Conor, you might agree with that as well, because when we were sat having a little picnic at the bottom of the mountain, like, the last scramble, Conor was like, yeah, we could finish it here.
Yeah, but I was going to finish it. And that's something I've learned. Probably when I was 16, I probably would have just left. But I don't do that now. Because I think once you get something in your head, then it's important to keep pursuing it.
Definitely.
I completely agree with that. Yeah. Completely agree with that. Safely, everyone that's listening to this, if you're hiking up mountains, please go up safely.
Yeah. And wear the right shoes.
Not flip-flops.
Yeah, not flip-flops or slippy trainers.
And step with your heel first, going up and going down. That helps keep your knees safe and gives you better balance. All right, so thank you so much, Conor, for joining us today. This has been really fun. I like learning these little things that you use with your students, and then also you're using with yourself. I think that's really cool that you do both, right? You're not just preaching, like you're actually integrating these things into your life. That's just really important.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming in and being a part of the podcast, Conor.
Thank you.
At the Happy Edit podcast, we're mindful that the podcast is not in replacement of therapy. If you do need further support, please do contact us on our contact details in the show notes. And we're more than happy to offer further support and guidance and direct you to places like the counselling directory or therapy directories. If you do also need further support, we would also recommend you contacting your primary healthcare provider. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you all soon.